Hey everybody, Father Warner here. It's a very, very rainy day here in Goa while I'm recording, so I've got into the bedroom so that I hope you can hear me more clearly. Today is the 25th of July. It's the feast of St. James the Apostle. Our text is taken from Matthew chapter 20, verse 20 to 28. Now, you might wonder which James this is, because if you look at the New Testament, in the list of the apostles, there are two apostles by the name of James. So you have James, who is the son of Zebedee, and James, who is the son of Alphaeus. James, the son of Alphaeus, is mentioned three times in the New Testament, all in context with his mother. But James, the son of Zebedee, is also called James the Greater. James, the son of Alphaeus, is called James the Lesser. And we are celebrating the feast of Saint James, the son of Zebedee, or Saint James the Greater. He might have had a more prominent role, clearly, in the early church. Now, he is the brother of John, who is also John the Beloved, the author of the fourth gospel. Their mother's name was Salome. Their father, of course, is Zebedee. In today's gospel, it is their mother Salome who approaches Jesus, asking for a place for her two sons, James and John, one to the right, one to the left. Now, who was Salome? From what we gather, she was the sister of the Blessed Virgin Mary. You'll say our Blessed Mother didn't have sisters. And in the Gospels also, we hear when Jesus is approached, they say, "Your brothers and sisters are here." We need to understand that this was a Middle Eastern way of speaking. Yeah, if you go to Versailles, which is next to Bombay, I used to get confused because when I was there as a young seminarian, way back in somewhere between 1994 or so, everyone would say, "This is my brother, this is my sister." What they meant was, these are cousins. They didn't distinguish, as we do it in English, as a cousin who is a brother and a cousin who is a sister. There's no such thing as a cousin brother. We just say this is a cousin who is a man or who is a woman. So Salome was obviously a cousin of the Blessed Virgin Mary, which would then make Jesus a cousin of James and John. Yeah, remember, they're all from the same area, and it was quite possible. In those days, you had large families, as we used to have. My father had, there were seven brothers. Yeah, today we are three siblings, and most of our children that we know today are single child. They are never going to hear the word aunt or have an uncle or a cousin. Those words are just going to go out of our dictionary because of the choices that we are making to have only one child. I know you're worried. How are you going to look after that child? Trust in God. Trust in God. If He brought our grandparents seven, like a whole football team, sometimes 12, and they managed and they got through life and they achieved so much. And I'm talking to the generation that is mine and the generation even more above me. If they did it, then I don't understand what the fuss and the fur. And every generation has its own challenges. But let's not get into that discussion right now. I want to get to James. So he is among the 12. He's James the Greater. He's the cousin of Jesus and the brother of John. Now, James and John, in Mark chapter 1, verse 19 to 20, are approached by Jesus. We know that they were mending their nets. They were with their father Zebedee, and Jesus simply called to them. In Mark's gospel, there is no "come follow me." Jesus simply called them, and we are told that their response was immediate. That's what Jesus wants from us. It's immediate. They left their father in the boat, which means they have, as it were, ended the relationship with their father in order to serve the Lord. And they also left the hired servants with the nets, which means that they've also given up their professions. So many of us, when we are called by the Lord, I was a trained chef. I was at the Oberoi's in Bombay. You leave your net. In my case, you leave your chef's cap and apron and come follow me. How's that journey been? Not always smooth sailing. Not always smooth sailing, as I'll tell you a little later. Be kind sometimes to your priest. Only we know the struggles and the sufferings. I know Vianney Sunday is coming up very soon, and I'm going to get thousands of messages. I wish some of those messages had to come all through the year. And yes, I know you appreciate us, but appreciate us every day. I've always said this. If you want your clergy to work harder, to grow in holiness, to serve the community more, start encouraging, not flattering. Start constructively encouraging them. You finish a mass on Sunday, don't run home. Tell them what you liked. Yeah, we approach our priests only when we don't like things. Now today I'm giving you a lot of side reflections, not because I don't have matter, but I'll get to it. It just flows from my heart. So James and John are mending their nets when the Lord calls them to leave relations, calls them to leave their profession and come join him. Now, James and John are going to be that special trio along with Peter, James, and John. And you're going to find them at several important moments in the life of Jesus' ministry. We see this clearly with Jairus' daughter when he raises her up from the dead in Mark chapter 5, verse 37. At the Transfiguration, which is found in all the Gospels, you will see that it is Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up on a high mountain. And then again in the Garden of Gethsemane, where all of them fall asleep. Yeah, Jesus wanted the closest to be with him, and guess what? They failed him. But as I'm going to tell you, the Lord always looks at our high points, not necessarily at our lowest moments. So, in the Gospel of today, which you will find taken from Matthew chapter 20, you will find their mother Salome approaching the Lord and saying, "Give to my sons a place, one to your right and one to your left." If you go to the Gospel of Mark, it is James and John who approach Jesus. Remember that Mark was the first Gospel written, and in a way, this must have portrayed the apostles in very poor light. I have a feeling that by the time Matthew wrote it, he embellished it a bit. Yeah, he might have, to take away the embarrassment. How could the apostles of Jesus be so ambitious that only they wanted a place? Because this text is followed immediately by the reaction of the remaining 10 who are angry, who are absolutely indignant. They're not angry because James and John asked for a place at the side of Jesus. I think they were angry because they got beaten to that asking. And that's very often our reaction. We are indignant. How could they ask? Actually, the point is, how did I not get to Jesus for that post? Or did I not get to the parish priest or the bishop before that post? We should check on our reasons for being indignant. James and John are also in scripture called the sons of thunder. We know this in Luke chapter 9, verse 51 to 56. Jesus was walking towards Jerusalem. Remember, the Gospel of Luke is also called the Gospel of the Way because Jesus is walking on his way to Jerusalem. And it is there that Jesus sends his disciples out ahead of him into Samaritan country, and they are not received. How does James and John react? Oh, they come back and they say, "Lord, let's call down fire and brimstone upon them." And Jesus refers to them as these wonderful sons of thunder. They had quite a bit of a temper too. Look, you may have a temper now, but remember that these brothers, especially John, we're celebrating the feast of St. James, but John went on to become the beloved, the loved. And he will tell us that God is love. Beloved, love one another. So what we are today is not what we are going to be. I always look at myself today and I say, thank God for the sabbatical. Really, thank God for my illness, because it has tempered me. And I pray that when the Lord calls me back to ministry in good health, I pray to the Lord that, what he is training me right now. I have my parents living with me, and I must tell you, I've grown to love them. It's very odd that I'm saying this at 55, but I've grown to ask the Lord for grace each day. My father's 89, my mother's 80. They have their own needs. They don't trouble me at all, but it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's cooking, washing, cleaning, serving. And I do have help. It's not that I'm helpless. I have help, but it's challenging. And I get up each morning and say, Lord, give me the grace to be kind. Give me the grace. I wonder why I never prayed such simple prayers. I must tell you that I've been praying the most simplest prayers. I'm in no ecstasy. I'm just in living each day, asking for, uh, literally, as that song goes, one day at a time, sweet Jesus. I am not interested in tomorrow. I don't care about where I'm going to be appointed next. What I really am interested is help me to live each day the way that would make you tremendously happy. So the sons of the thunder, remember, had a temper, and the Lord tempers them down to become uh, apostles of great love. Um, in Acts chapter 12, verse 1 to 3, that's the last time we're going to hear of St. James. King Herod Agrippa, who ruled Judea from the year 41 to 44 BC, he was the one who, in order to please the Jews, had James beheaded. He was the first of the martyrs to be first of the apostles to be martyred. That is what we are celebrating also today. Remember, the day of the martyrdom of the saints, or the day of the death of the saints, is the day that we celebrate their feast day. It's only the Blessed Virgin Mary, Jesus, and John the Baptist whose birth, nativity, we celebrate. For all the others, it's the day that they died or martyred, because that's the day they entered into heaven. And that is the reason why, even in the church, the first death anniversary and the subsequent anniversaries of death are the day that we offer masses in thanksgiving, yeah, to the Lord for the life of this person, and also asking the Lord to have mercy on our brothers and sisters, to admit them into his into paradise. So it is King Herod Agrippa that had him put to death. Now, tradition has it, and I'm making this very, very clear. The tradition has it that prior to him being executed, St. James traveled to Spain. And this is very important because the patron saint really of Spain is Santiago, or Saint James. Now, we are told that after his death, his body was miraculously transported from Jerusalem to Spain. They say that in the 9th century, okay, this is 9th century, a hermit whose name was Pelagius, he observed a certain cluster of stars, and that led him to go and seek like the wise men, and he found the burial spot of St. James. It was later on, I think it was King Alphonsus II of Spain, who then went on to build that great church that you see today. If you ever go to Spain, it's a great pilgrim site. I'm going to talk about it a little more. Santiago de Compostela. Santiago is James. Compostela, Campo is a field. If you go to Italy and you say Campo, it's not necessarily a field, but it's an open space. Yeah, you have the Campo de Fiori, the field of flowers, so the area of flowers in Rome. You have plenty of campos, or a field or an open space. Campo de Stella. Stella is the star. Okay, the field of stars where the hermit Pelagius was brought to. Stella, you also have Stella Maris, right? Star Maris is the sea or the ocean. Star of the ocean, Stella Maris. Here you have Compostela, the field of stars. That's why it's called Santiago de Compostela. It's also called the Camino de Santiago, or the Way of Santiago. And this is really a path that pilgrims have used to travel from either France or Spain. From France, it's a tougher journey. They go walking, and they have a staff, and I think there's a little bag or something. I forget the. I know St. John Paul II did part of that journey towards the end, dressed up like a pilgrim. You got to register in order to reach when you reach the end. I think they give you a medal to say that you've done that journey. But that journey, there are, I think, three ways you can reach, the three paths that you can take. One of them that starts from France is about 500 miles long over the Pyrenees. It's a tough journey, but this, I know this whole week prior, there would have been thousands of people doing this journey, walking towards Santiago de Compostela, which they would have reached today. So there are also pilgrimages that are 100 miles that start from Spain itself. You can register and do it. Interesting it would be. Now, today's pilgrimages, which I'm chuckling because I'm going for joining one of the groups this September to go to Eastern Europe. I think they're full of luxuries, yeah. And I want to say a word of caution to you. I know you pay a good amount of your money, and therefore you want your money's worth. I have seen and heard so much of bickering and intolerance and unkind words among groups that travel on these pilgrimages. And I think that simply beats the purpose of a pilgrimage. I'm sure those of you who've done it have experienced this unkindness. There are always, as I say, one or two in the group. But think of our pilgrimages today. They're filled with luxuries. You stay in 3 and 4-star hotels. You travel in an AC bus. And very often these pilgrimages end up in shopping trips. I remember on one particular trip to the Holy Land, I insisted we would not shop. We were beaten and hounded by the locals who insisted. Our bus driver, all of them are on the take, all of them get a commission. The bus driver, the guide, everyone kept insisting, no, we have to stop, we have to stop. And they were getting belligerent with me till finally I simply gave up. And you can see sometimes these beautiful pilgrim centers have ended up becoming places of, and then of course you always have somebody in our community on your pilgrim group that wants to shop. Yeah, I often joke and say, as part of the trip to the Holy Land, we end up in Egypt, and they talk about Egyptian cotton, and we are buying it. May I say this with due respect to the Egyptian people, but we have excellent cotton in India, but we have a habit as Indians that we must buy something, even if you're getting better stuff back home. But that's an aside. Lots of asides today. Let me leave you with 9 brief reflections. I know you must say 9 very quickly on this feast. First, saying yes to God's call. St. James said yes. He left his father, he left his profession, and I think all of us also need to say yes to ministry. I've been saying this again and again. We are 1 billion Catholics with nothing to show for. With nothing to show for. Yeah, just the name that we are Catholics. But if 1 billion Catholics gave 1 hour of their day, that would be equal to several years all accomplished in a day, several years of labor accomplished in a day. But we do not. And if you cannot get involved in ministry, then support ministry. There are lots of wonderful ministries being done. Remember, the laborer requires his wages. Yeah, he doesn't require luxuries, he requires his wages. So support ministry, everybody. The second is that, and this is a point I want to make very strongly, that faith in Christ or friendship with God does not confer upon us a certain patronage of power and status. Here with James and John in the Gospel of today, their mother wanted a particular status. So I can be a friend of God. I can be an ardent servant of the gospel, but that doesn't mean that a skull cap is going to fall on my head. Having a skull cap on your head, I'm using my example, is not a privilege. It's a crown of thorns. I wish we replace that skull cap, that zucchetto, with a crown of thorns. I don't know how many bishops would then want to wear it. But the point I'm trying to make is that these are callings to service, to greater service. When we turn this calling into privilege and position, I think we fail the Lord, completely fail the Lord. Yeah. I say this with great love, but my dear friend, the late Father Larry, would often say, some may sound unkind, but take it for what it's meant. He would say that, some priests sit in a position of authority in a school, in a church. He said if they were in the real world, they wouldn't have been employed as a peon. He would say this. And he would say this with all humility. He says, we have forgotten from where we have come. We were from where we have been called. And so power and position is not given to lord it over. And Jesus in the gospel of today will explain the call to humility, not the call to power and position. The third point I want to make is don't ask for the chair. Ask for closeness to Jesus. Don't ask for position in your parish council, in your ministry. Ask for closeness to Jesus. A closeness to Jesus involves making lifestyle changes. Today when we talk about lifestyle changes, we mean about your diet and your sleep and your exercise. I think a lot of us have unhealthy lives, and drawing ourselves closer to Jesus really brings the true lifestyle changes. The fourth point I want to make is this, that the cross must come before the crown. They wanted the crown, they wanted a seat. Jesus asked them point blank, are you ready to drink that cup? Yeah? Are you ready to drink that cup? Because we want the crown, we want the chair, we don't want the cross. The cross must come before the crown. And it is in this context that Jesus said to James and John, you do not know what you are asking for. Imagine the Lord saying that to you and me, and I want that to weigh very heavily on your hearts, because we ask the Lord for a whole bunch of things. We may not ask to sit on his left and right, but we ask for a whole bunch of things. And Jesus must be saying to us, you do not know what you are asking for. When you are asked the Lord for anything, lay a petition and say, if it is your will. Don't say, this is what I want, this is my shopping list, Lord. Fulfill my desires, fulfill my demands. Um, James and John spoke to the Lord with zeal, but they didn't speak with knowledge. It's very important that we don't allow our zeal to overcome. Pray for the gift of knowledge. Yeah, while we need zeal, we need also the gift of knowledge. Many years ago, when I was a young priest, there was a parishioner who needed a kidney transplant. And I jumped up and down and said, at that point of time, I thought I had to be the martyr and save everybody. I can barely save myself today, but anyway, I thought I'd give my kidney away. And that's just acting impulsively. Pray for the gift of knowledge. Bishop Bosco, I once said to him this, and I pray this week he's well. I know he's had a surgery. He said to me, I said, Bishop, I've always prayed that I may share in the Lord's suffering. And he said to me, he said, don't be foolish. He said, don't ask for things you're not ready for. I love that. That was the most spiritual line I ever heard. Don't be foolish. Don't pray for things you are not ready for. Are you ready for these things? Even if you ask for the crown, are you ready for it? I know we are all angling for if you ask for the cross, we're all angling for the crown, not for the cross. But when you ask for the cross, are you ready for it? Are you speaking from zeal, or are you speaking from knowledge? I want to also address the fact that Salome, the mother of James and John, come to Jesus and say, give my sons a place of position, power, because they have ambitions, and I as a mother would love to see their ambitions. Sounds familiar? All mothers. All mothers. I get so many requests. Pray for my son. Pray that he may get a better job. Pray that he gets a visa. Pray that he goes abroad. Pray that my daughter does this and achieves that. And hey, I understand the heart of a mother. Congratulations. The fact that you pray for your children, pray for their success, means that you have a heart and you are a mother. That's two wonderful things that most people can't boast of. Yeah, heart and being a mother. And only God knows the love of a mother's heart. But mothers, while you pray for the ambition of your daughters and sons, pray for their salvation, not just their ambitions. Pray for their salvations. And I've been saying this to parents today. On your knees, besides your bed, pray for your children, grown up as they are, because that prayer is heard by God. That is what saves your children, not the fact that they sit in chairs of power, position, and are rolling in money. And what has that got them? Very often it has lost them their soul. Point 8. Pray for those today who make rash decisions, because James and John appeared to Jesus with a very rash decision. Pray today for our young people that they do not make rash decisions, that they think and they submit to the Lord. Finally, I want to encourage you to make a pilgrimage, maybe not to the Holy Land or to Eastern Europe or Western Europe, because you may not be able to afford it. But I think St. James should inspire us, or this feast day should inspire us to make a pilgrimage. I'm recording this several days ahead, and I thought, why should I not make a little pilgrimage? I'm going to walk from one church here and go out to the other. I've got a bad foot, but I'm going to ask the Lord to give me grace, put on a raincoat if it's raining, and walk. These are pilgrimages we can make. Walk from one cross to the other. Walk from one church to the other. Walk from a little shrine in your village, in your city, from Matar Pakadi, wherever you are, Ranvad, Bandra, Pali village, wherever there's a cross to a church, and make a little pilgrimage. And in that pilgrimage, offer up your children, offer up your intentions to the Lord. Bye, everybody. I want to leave you with a blessing, the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and leave your thoughts, leave your comments. And if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Bye, everybody.